Morning. So today we're going to take a look at different types of trailer systems and components, and there are so many of them that we can't know everything about every type of trailer that's out there. So we're going to sort of have an overview of the things that we do need to know about trailers and what kind of repairs we might be doing on the trailers themselves. So again, there are so many different types of trailers out there. We can classify them into high boy trailers, low boy trailers. Again, what type of trailer are we using and for what? So hauling equipment, are we hauling a product? Now, is the trailer designed to keep that product dry? Is the trailer designed to keep the product cold? Is it designed to keep it warm? So there's a bunch of different components that are added to trailers for specific needs. For instance, a Safeway trailer, they'll have a reefer unit on it. Now this reefer unit can keep that product cold, but it can also use that reefer unit to keep the product warm. Inside the trailer we can have separate compartments. So we might have a freezer compartment up front, and as we get further back it gets warmer. So we have to take a look at what we're using that trailer for. Cattle trailers, livestock trailers, again, just specific needs that we need for that trailer. Bulk haulers. So there are certain trailers, again, how do we unload these trailers? Some of them will have a moving floor. Others have to be put on a lift and tipped to dump the product. Others just use man labor to move the product out. So this is another way to dump chip trailers. We may have tank trailers. These bulk haulers again may have a compressor on the front to pressurize the tanks to move the product out. So there are a variety of different trailers. Milk trailers, for instance, are designed a little different than normal trailers, as milk trailers don't have baffles inside. End dump trailers, belly dump trailers. Now again, there's two different styles of belly dump trailers. The ones that dump and leave a windrow, and ones that dump and can spread the material. We get logging trailers of different styles. We get extended trailers, so these are called a trombone trailer, where we can extend it and put lock pins in for different lengths of loads. And then we get the heavy movers. So these again are designed, you take a look at how many axles are sitting under these for hauling these heavy loads. Now again, what we're looking at, and we've talked about this before when we were talking about trailers and brakes, and the weights of the trailers and how they're designed to be able to handle the weight of the product. And what happens if we overload a trailer? We looked at this when we were discussing frames of, what can cause a sag in a trailer. Making sure that the frame rails are going to be strong enough for the application that we're using the trailer for. So when we get into hauling a trailer, how is it hooked to the vehicle in front? Is it through a pintle hitch or is it through another fifth wheel? When we're taking a look at tandem gravel trucks and trailers, so they may have a tandem here or a tridem, and we might have a tridem trailer. Again, it's for hauling the amount of weight. And how are they hooked up? And what are the things that we have as mechanics have to look at when we're inspecting and repairing these components? So drawbars, again, how are they attached to the trailer? Are they attached to a turntable? And again, we have a pintle hook here. So this one here has a turntable on it, which means that we have a pivot point here and a pivot point here. We're going to see some of the others, like if we look at this here, we just have a single pivot point that's on the pintle hook. So when we take a look at body dumps, again, when we have an end dump trailer, how is it hooked? How is it operated from the vehicle in front? Semi-trailers, again, we have a single trailer we have a single pivot point on a fifth wheel. So these are components that are heavy wear items, and again, they have to be maintained properly. When we get into low beds, again, making sure that we don't have any issues with them. When we take a look at a tandem trailer, so we got a pivot point here, we have a pivot point here, and we have a pivot point here. So here we have 3 pivot points on this trailer that all have to be maintained. When we start taking a look at converter dollies, now we talked about converter dollies when we were doing air brakes, and again, a converter dolly is this component here. When we get into a B-train configuration, so we have A-train configurations, B-train configurations, C-train configurations, and how they differ between these components. So on a B-train, our following trailer goes onto a fifth wheel. So we'll have a pivot point here and a pivot point here. Now, this set of dollies, or duals, they may slide. So when we don't, when we're not hauling a second trailer, these can be moved up underneath the lead trailer. So for instance, if I have 2 cargo vans and I want to be able to back up into a loading dock, I can slide these forward, back up into the loading dock, unload my material, undo the pins, move ahead, hook up my second trailer, and away I go. When we take a look at a C-train, so a C-train, instead of having a single pintle hook, will have a dual pintle hook. So on the back of the lead trailer, you may see 3 pintle hook, or 3 pintle hitches. So one for a single pintle hitch and one for C-train. C-train converter dollies, again, you can see the dual setup on the front of this. Now when we get into some logging trailers, they'll use what's called a Jeep, and again, it's to help distribute the load. So what we'll have is this will hook onto the fifth wheel of the truck, and we could have a logging deck on top of this, or a set of bunks. So when we take a look at some machines, they're going to have a steerable axle in there. Not that it's controlled by the steering wheel, but as the vehicle turns, this axle will allow it to turn. And what prevents it from moving all over is there will be shock absorbers on these to help keep it stable. When we take a look at, this is a Jeep, a logging Jeep, so we got our fifth wheel here that hooks up to the fifth wheel on the truck. And we have our logging bunk set up on this. And how this works is this will slide up on the truck and the trailer will load on top of this when they're not hauling logs. So some of the things that we have to look at on a logging trailer, and we're going to discuss some of them. We have our stakes, our stake cables, our stake extensions. So when we undo these chains here, this stake extension will go up and stay in the up position because inside this tube there's a spring that pulls it up. And this chain down here is for the adjustment of the tension to make sure that the stakes move fully up. There's also inside of this tube here in the bunk, there's a set of cables or chains and springs, so that if we have to trip these manually, on the other side of this cable here, there's a manual trip, so we can trip a set of logging bunks and dump the load off, and when we pull ahead, the springs just help us be able to put these stakes back up in position. So on the back of the truck, our bunk is attached to a bolster. Now we have a cup and a saucer in here, and again, these are another wear items because as we're moving around, this bunk is going to turn on the bolster on the cup and saucer. So again, we have to lubricate these properly. There's also a pin in here. So this is what we classify as a live bunk. So there's a pin in here that has to be attached, otherwise this bunk could fall off. And these are the trips. So there's a pin in here, we can undo this latch, this cable will come off and loosen off, and this stake can fall down. So when we take a look at a trailer, so we have a reach on the trailer and we have a compensator and a compensator tube. We also can have a setup on the back here where we can trip the back, or they could be welded solid. So on our compensator, so here's our reach. So we have our compensator tube with our compensator, and inside here we have compensator bushings. When we are not hauling logs, we have this on the back of the truck. This reach tube is pushed all the way back in, and this compensator lock comes up and locks onto this component here so it can't move in or out. We also have safety chains, and we have our air and electrical lines hooked up for our trailer brakes. And we're going to take a look at pintle hitches a little bit later.